Hello students, this is conclusion of the essay of Mimicry and Man, Ambivalence of Colonial Discourse by Homi Bhabha. Homi Bhabha was born on 1st November 1949. He is an Indian English scholar and critical theorist. He is the Anne F. Rothenberg Professor of the Humanities at Harvard University. He is one of the most important figures in contemporary post-colonial studies. He has developed a number of key concepts such as hybridity, mimicry, difference, and ambivalence. According to Bhabha, such terms describe ways in which colonized people have resisted the power of the colonizer. In 2012, he received the Padma Bhushan Award in the field of literature and education from the Indian government. Bhabha has been profoundly original voice in the study of colonial, post-colonial and globalized cultures and has developed the work of psychoanalytic and post-structuralist thinkers. Mimicry is an increasingly important term in post-colonial theory because it has come to describe the ambivalent relationship between colonizer and colonized. When colonial discourse encourages the colonized subject to mimic the colonizer, by adopting the colonizer's cultural habits, assumptions, institutions, and values, the result is never a simple reproduction of those traits. Rather, the result is a blurred copy of the colonizer that can be quite threatening. This is because mimicry is never far from mockery, since it can appear to parody whatever it mimics. Mimicry, therefore, locates a crack in the certainty of colonial dominance and an uncertainty in its control of the behavior of the colonized. Mimicry has often been an overt goal of imperial policy. For instance, Lord Macaulay's 1835 Minute to Parliament derided Oriental learning and advocated the reproduction of English art and learning in India. However, the method by which this mimicry was to be achieved indicated the underlying weakness of imperialism. For Macaulay suggested that the riches of European learning should be imparted by a class of interpreters between us and the millions whom we govern, a class of persons Indian in blood and color, but English in taste, opinions, in morals and intellect. In other words, not only was a mimicry of European learning to be hybridized and therefore ambivalent, but Macaulay seems to suggest that imperial discourse is compelled to make it so in order for it to work. The essay begins with the assertion that colonialism results in irony, mimicry, and repetition. As colonialism produces these results, mimicry emerges as one of the most elusive and effective strategies of colonial power and knowledge. Bhabha, in this quotation, illustrates the powerful nature of colonial mimicry, but leaves it ambiguous to whom it gives power, and in doing so, suggests that the colonized can use it to subvert the colonizer. This becomes clearer when he asserts that When placed between the demand for identity, stasis, and change, difference, mimicry represents an ironic compromise. As the colonial relationship progresses, there is constant tension between the imperial power's desire for constant control and domination and the natural progress of history. These two factors create an unlikely product, mimicry. Baba assumes that colonial mimicry is a desire for reformed, recognized other as a subject of a difference that is almost the same but not quite. In clearer language, he asserts that the colonizer wants to improve the other and to make him like himself, but in a way that still maintains a clear sense of difference. In that sense, the other becomes almost the same as the colonizer, but never quite fits in with the hegemonic cultural and political systems that govern both of them. He continues to illustrate that for colonial mimicry to work, it must continue to express its difference, which he terms ambivalence. Ultimately, because mimicry requires this slippage to function, it gives power not only to the colonizer but becomes the subversive tool of the colonized. Baba gives the example of Charles Grant's observations on the state of society among the Asiatic subjects of Great Britain, which advocates for the partial diffusion of Christianity and the partial influence of moral improvements, because he is afraid that should the colonial subjects receive all the education, they would gain enough self consciousness to rise up against their oppressors. In many ways, this appears to be mere repetition of the Hegelian master slave dialectic. Baba continues, the menace of mimicry is its double vision, which, disclosing the ambivalence of colonial discourse, also disrupts its authority. He clarifies that mimicry can be a subversive tool because, in its slippage, in its production of imitators rather than real Englishmen, the power of colonizer is undermined. This ambivalence suggests that the civilizing mission does not work because it only allows for anglicization and not the total transformation of natives to Englishmen. The final point he suggests is the founding objects of Western world become the erratic, eccentric, accidental of the colonial discourse, the part objects of presence. In other words, the founding ideals and ideology of Europe and America are explained to the colonized only partly, and so became in a way meaningless. They are only part objects caused by the presence of the colonizer. The colonizer does not successfully impart his beliefs on the colonized, and the colonized will forever be not quite, not white. In the essay of Mimicry and Man, the ambivalence of colonial discourse, Baba probes the psychic mechanism of the process of representation to bring out the ambivalence of a project that produces colonial subjects. The term ambivalence was first developed in psychoanalysis to describe a continual fluctuation between wanting one thing and wanting its opposite. It also refers to simultaneous attraction between uh, toward and repulsion from an object, person or action. Homi Bhabha adopted this term into colonial discourse analysis to characterize the relationship between the colonizer and the colonized. The relation is ambivalent because the colonized subject is never simply and completely opposed to the colonized. In Baba, ambivalence suggests that complicity and resistance exist in a fluctuating relation within the colonial subject. We already know that the concept of mimicry has been crucial in Homi Bhabha's view of colonial discourse. For him, mimicry is the process by which the colonial subject is reproduced as almost the same but not quite the same. When the colonial discourse encourages the colonial subject to mimic the colonizer by adopting the colonizer's cultural habits, the result is never a simple reproduction of those traits. Mimicry by the colonized contains both mockery and a certain menace. Ambivalence describes this fluctuating relationship between mimicry and mockery. In this respect, it is not necessarily disempowering for the colonial subject. The effect of this ambivalence is to produce a profound disturbance of the authority of colonial discourse. Homi Bhabha's analysis of the relationship between the colonizer and colonized stresses their interdependence and the mutual construction of subjectivities. Bhabha argues that all cultural statements and systems are constructed in a space that he calls the third space of enunciation. Cultural identity always emerges in this contradictory and ambivalent space, which for Bhabha makes the claim to a hierarchical purity of cultures untenable. Bhabha used the term hybridity to refer to this kind of cross cultural identity formation. Since then, hybridity has frequently been used in post colonial discourse to mean cross cultural exchange. This use of the term has been widely criticized since it usually implies negating the imbalance and inequality of the power relations it refers to. Thank you.